What's up, Samurai? In this video of Wayfinder, we're going to be talking about Wingrave. Wingrave is essentially going to end up being the super tanky class of the game. A lot of his abilities will end up healing him, but more specifically, he's going to have a very high amount of survivability and a decent amount of damage. His first ability, Righteous Strike, performs a powerful radiant strike. Incoming damage is reduced by 25% while performing the ability, and hitting an enemy will cause an explosion of healing energy to heal Wingrave and nearby allies. Cooldown refreshes upon using a melee finisher. His second ability, Radiant Pulse, forms a divine shield that blocks projectiles and grants a defense boost to allies standing behind the shield. When the shield forms, it sends out a radiant pulse, dealing damage to enemies in front of the shield. His next ability, Judgment, will mark enemies for judgment, basically making them all aggro towards him. Anyone hitting a judged enemy will restore their own health. And his ultimate ability, Divine Aegis, which is going to create a powerful barrier that protects Wingrave and all allies inside of it, making them immune to all damage and healing them over time while standing in the barrier. His passive ability, Healing Pulse, makes it so that melee finishers heal Wingrave and one nearby ally. His archetype passive abilities, which is Art of War, weapon abilities charge 15% faster, and when using a weapon ability, inspires the War Master and nearby allies for a short time, increasing weapon power by 10% per ability level. It also stacks up to 30%. And then his dodge roll, War Masters have an additional 20 stamina and restore some resilience with each roll. Now, there are a lot of different weapons that you can end up using on Wingrave. You can basically use any weapon that you want. But when we end up popping out our shield, you'll see that the sword and board is going to kind of be the standard for him, because we'll be able to pick and choose the direction that we aim while we're blocking. Other weapons that will allow you to block is going to end up being the great swords, the axe, the scythe weapon. Guns, while you're aiming down the scope, will kind of force Wingrave to face in that specific direction, so that is quite helpful. But you're not going to really have that much control over your defensive capabilities with daggers and more offensive fast weapons, which in no way means that you can't use those weapons on Wingrave to great effect. As for Wingrave's cosmetics, you're going to be very limited, just because you can either be the Templar, which has just one hat and that's it, or the Seeker, which actually has a lot of different options, as you can see. And you can end up making him look pretty dang swag, if I do say so. I really like Wingrave. He's probably going to end up being my main character, just because there's something about his style that really speaks to me, just in terms of like how powerful he feels, you know? And I just really like the way that he looks and the way that he feels and all of his different abilities.